Welcome to the AI Business News Desk. I'm Terry Sweeney, contributing editor to AI Business, and joining me now is Rochelle Haynes, managing director with Bloomberg Philanthropies and the What Works Cities initiative. Rochelle, thanks so much for joining us on the news desk today.
Thank you for having me.
Local governments are using AI for a number of different applications: emergency response, service delivery, operational efficiencies. Start us off, if you will, with an overview of how cities across the Americas are already using AI to strengthen their day-to-day operations, but also to serve residents.
Absolutely. So, What Works Cities is a network of over 1,900 city leaders in over 250 cities. So, in our network, cities are using AI in a variety of ways. Like you mentioned, operational efficiencies. Cities like Dallas, Texas, is using it for their procurement process. They're thinking about inspections with AI, all from a place of how do we save dollars? How do we do things faster and be more responsive to not only our residents, but communities as well? So examples like in Mendoza, Argentina, they're doing something really cool with AI technology for illegal dumping, which is a
Wow.
public health issue. It predominantly is in vulnerable communities. And so what they're
Of
doing is
course.
leveraging AI technology and sensors to be able to sort of scan areas with drone photography to take a look to see where are those illegal dumps. This is an activity that would have taken thousands of hours for staff to be able to do, but now they're able to do it with drone and AI technology, detect the sites, clean up the sites, and create a more livable environment for vulnerable communities, which is really, really exciting use of AI for me, where it's like this practical usage that also ties back to residents.
And we're not talking like hundreds of millions of dollars to make this sort of thing happen. This is
Exactly.
relatively affordable as technologies go.
It's very affordable, and they're doing partnerships, right, with private sector partners. They're doing partnerships with universities, all with the idea of like, how do we make sure the technology can get at the root of governance? And so I think this is a really exciting time for local governments to see an opportunity where they can improve efficiency by using AI, but also address some really good challenges with the technology.
I mean, cities face some other challenges as well: intense heat, flooding, weather-related emergencies, the changing weather patterns that are affecting cities around the globe. Talk about how AI is helping local governments prepare for and respond to these sometimes often catastrophic events.
And you hit on something really important. You said the climate related issues that are happening. One of the things that stands out in our network, we are global, North, Central, and South America. Everyone's concerned about the climate. There's historic flooding happening across the Americas. It's not unique. It's one of the reasons our program decided to go global. We were US based for about 8 years, and we expanded because we realized best practices should be shared across the globe. And so with AI, what we're seeing is flood detection. In Recife, Brazil, they're using AI to be able to detect floods, predict when floods are going to happen. Again, vulnerable communities are the most at risk. And so being able to do evacuation, do emergency response, really exciting technology here in the US. Austin, Texas is using it to detect wildfires.
Of course.
And so they have cameras that are going around and detecting smoke early on, which allows for a quicker emergency response and evacuation if that's needed. And so, again, those are like practical uses, but climate related uses as well.
As you look out, and even as you learn more about the different AI options available, just curious what some of the AI applications you think are going to have the biggest impact on cities going forward.
I think the biggest impact is going to be on government operations. And I think we're just scratching the surface there. It may not be the most exciting examples that people want to hear, but imagine a permit process that took weeks, that took months to do. You can now do it in hours. That saves time, that saves money, and it allows you to be more efficient. And so I think the area where there's going to be a lot of growth is on just that core operational efficiency, particularly at the local governance level.
I can imagine taxpayers like the sound of that.
Yeah, you're saving taxpayers' dollars as well. And Dallas, Texas actually saw that when they started rolling it out for their own procurement process. And so those are like the nuts and bolts ways. I think that's also a way for the technologists to connect with cities better, is develop a technology that helps them do the things that they need to do every day. And also, we're in a world where budgets are, not infinite, and
Of
so
course.
cities are looking for ways to be efficient. And I think that's an area where we can see a little bit more when it comes to how AI can be leveraged.
Anything more specific or specialized that cities are looking at where AI may be responding to unique conditions? I mean, the environmental stuff that we spoke of is obviously in that category, but anything else in that realm?
I think right now with cities is also for customer service. And so
Okay,
chatbots were a big thing a couple of years ago. They're still a big thing, and cities are on a curve. I think that's the other
right.
thing we need to acknowledge about this movement. They're the cities like San Jose and Seattle that are very, very advanced in using the technology for a couple of years now, and others that are just getting started. And so I feel like with how it's going to change the way you can kind of interact with your government, get services, and get answers on a 24 hours, 7 days a week kind of basis is where some cities are at, where others, again, are doing things that are more sophisticated around technology with wildfires and climate related.
Good stuff. So as AI gets more embedded in public service delivery, how can cities ensure that these tools remain responsible, transparent, and aligned with residents' own needs?
Any start to AI needs a good plan. I think you often hear people just say, I want to use technology, but for what? To what
Right,
end,
right.
right? So have you thought about where the technology can meet a gap that you have? Is there a need? Can you identify what problem you're trying to solve? Get some folks around that. And then also engage your residents in that conversation so that you understand what's really happening on the ground. There's some good examples of when cities have engaged. San Jose did it on their translation services. They had partnered, they rolled out translation services, actually found out it was culturally insensitive messaging was going out. They didn't run from it, they owned it, they were accountable, they were transparent, they engaged the community, and now they have a service that's working well. And so when we think about the road ahead, right, it's about being transparent, it's about being accountable, and also identify your need. Don't say you just want the technology for the technology's sake. Have a real purpose with it. It can sort of fill a gap.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I notice, say, in the corporate world, there's a lot of, I'll just call it performative AI. We're doing this because we know our competitors are at it, and we've got to at least make it look like we're doing something. Uh, I imagine there's a similar dynamic with cities. Like they realize they've got to be
Yeah.
smart, responsive, but also competitive, and well, I guess it comes back to responsiveness.
It does. And, cities, the public sector often gets a bad rap of being slow, particularly around
Sure.
technology. I'm a former public servant. I worked for New York City for 10 years early in my career. And what I'm seeing now is that cities actually don't want that to be the story anymore about them. They're really trying to lean in. They just need good use cases, right? I don't think they're technology adverse. It's just to what end? And they also want to make sure they design something that is useful, can be sustainable, that they can maintain it. They're sort of not dependent on someone else to sort of keep it going, but also have to think about how they upskill their staff as well, right,
Sure.
to be able to use it. So when cities have this conversation, it's not just technology, it's also how do I make sure that I have the staff that are prepared for where we're headed in terms of technological advancements?
I mean, another big difference is cities have a lot of transparency and public disclosure
Absolutely.
that companies aren't subject to. So they 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 have to be smart about how they go
Yeah,
about it,
exactly.
and even politic.
Exactly. And what I'm finding, the cities in our network that are using AI, residents are on board. It's just about, are you engaging me in a thoughtful and intentional way? Do we see our needs being addressed? And honestly, once you start to show someone that something improves their quality of life, think about the example I shared from Mendoza. Illegal dumping is getting
Sure.
better. They're able to address it. People are on board. They just want to be part of the process.
Talk about the foundational data practices that cities should have in place as they look at expanding getting into AI or expanding their existing initiatives.
Yeah. So with What Work Cities, we have our What Work Cities standard, which is a benchmark on what it means to be good, well-managed local government. We cover things from how do you manage data, your governance processes, to your contracts. So a lot of what we talk about also helps cities think through how they can have the strong foundation, as you mentioned. So you do need a strong data foundation. Doesn't have to be perfect, because I know I hear some of these conversations like your data has to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect,
Right.
but get it in a way that it's operational, unusable. So good, strong data foundation. Design your purpose.
Yeah.
Have a good use case.
Yeah.
What's the problem you're trying to solve for? And then also think through strategically, how do you make sure it's sustainable, right? And so design it, but make sure it's sustainable. So identify those resources up front.
We're hearing this again and again. The more specific the use case can be, the more likely it is to have a successful AI deployment.
Absolutely.
Well, Rochelle, thank you so much for stopping by the news desk. Some great insights into how AI is really improving the quality of life in our cities in the Americas. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We've been talking to Rochelle Haynes with Bloomberg Philanthropies and What Works Cities. This has been Terry Sweeney for AI Business News Desk. Thanks for joining us for this segment. We'll see you next time.